A passenger forcefully pulled from a car and tased by police. The encounter is at the center of controversy that has long-term effects.
A man who decided to do the right thing and be part of a rideshare so he wouldn't drive intoxicated ended up leading a man to being tased by police just for standing up for his rights. That's the topic in this episode of the Junkyard News. Thanks for tuning in. In this video, we have a situation where a couple of bored police officers decide to walk up to a car that has their radio up a little loud and decide they're going to relieve their boredom. Was it an act of defiance or a fight for justice? This incident raises critical questions about the balance between law enforcement and individual freedoms. This episode that was caught on police body camera and is now in a process of going viral. This footage has ignited a firestorm of debate over police practices against civil liberties. Join us as we delve into this controversial incident that has everyone asking, when does standing up for your rights go too far, and how should the police respond? Stay tuned. We're getting into the full story. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and follow us for more updates on this story and other stories as we share our thoughts on this heated debate.
Videos uploaded by the Junkyard News are helped in part by viewers just like you. You can show your support for this channel by clicking the thumbs up, sharing our videos. Don't want to miss a video or a story? Make sure to check us out and like us on Facebook at the Junkyard News.
This recent incident involving police and a passenger in a vehicle has stirred significant controversy and has ignited the public debate. This is just another recent incident involving police and passengers in the vehicle and has stirred significant controversy and public debate over what the courts have said regarding passengers' duty to ID when asked when they've done nothing wrong. Now, this event unfolded when a couple of police officers noticed a vehicle driving through a parking lot, and the driver apparently, in the officer's eyes, had his radio up a little loud. The officer walks up to the car and tells the driver, "Hey man, that radio's a little loud for how late it is tonight. Why don't you turn it down for me?" And he turns it down. It should have been the end of it. But the officer decides to turn it into an enforcement action.
You need to turn the music down a little bit. That's
oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Disorderly. That's
oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Disorderly.
I'll show you disorderly.
And asks the driver for his ID, which is all well and good. But once the officer notices that the car has more people in it, things ratchet up a little bit. Officers, needing their crack, decide they want to ask identification from everybody in the vehicle.
The driver was a designated driver because the group, according to Washington, had been drinking. Driver's license in hand, it almost appears the encounter is over until officers notice more people in the car.
You mind rolling yours down?
They don't have ID and question why they're being asked for it since they're not driving.
I need everybody's ID. What's your name? What's your name? I've already explained it. If I have to ask you again, you're going to go for obstruction.
So then you can ID yourself or you're going to go to jail. Which one?
What happened?
I've already explained it to you twice.
And when the officers got to one particular passenger in the back seat, the passenger, when asked to provide his identification, he had the audacity to ask the officer why he needed to show ID, as he was not legally required to do so. He was just a passenger and not suspected of anything wrong, of doing anything unlawful, and thus, being just a passenger, had no duty to produce identification upon demand of a police officer. In many jurisdictions, passengers are not required to provide identification unless there is reasonable suspicion of a crime of that individual, or if the passenger's conduct is relevant to the stop. However, interpretations of the law can vary widely from department to department, and the officers repeatedly request the passenger to identify himself, warning him of the potential consequences. So when he does refuse and they get tired of asking, they then initiate a forced contact by asking him to get out of the car and telling him, "You're going to go to jail. Give me your ID or you're going to jail." And when he again questions the officer's actions, they physically remove him from the car.
So last opportunity before we take you out of the car and put you in cuffs.
My name's Sid.
Hey, stay in the vehicle.
My name's Sid, so what?
What's your last name?
I just told you my name's Sid.
Go ahead and get out.
No weapons are seen, no marijuana, no open container, according to the police report, but there's a definite sense of urgency.
I just told you my name. I said my name is Cedric.
Put it behind your back.
I just told you my name.
I'm not gonna tell you again. Roll over. Roll over.
Despite the warnings, the passenger did continue to refuse. But again, as a passenger, he's not legally obligated to ID to an officer. Although the officer can ask, he doesn't have to show him his ID. This isn't Nazi Germany. Show me your papers, citizen. This was a clear overreach by the officers. The passenger should not have been forced to show ID. And while it is important to know your rights, compliance can prevent situations from quickly spiraling out of control. This is an incident that underscores the urgent need for comprehensive reform and better training of law enforcement to handle such situations without unnecessary force. And force ended up being applied. They end up dragging him out of the car, and when the gentleman realizes they're going to falsely arrest him, he tries to get away. He then backs up away from the officer, and when he turns to walk away, he rides the lightning. The probes end up hitting the man in the leg, where he had not too long before had surgery and had a metal rod put in his leg, to which his leg was unable to bend in certain ways. And one could only speculate, having that much electricity running into a leg with a metal rod in it, how that exasperated the charge, pulsing through his entire body, causing him to fall to the ground. Now, this event happened in Arkansas, and Arkansas does not have a stop and ID statute. Again, this passenger was forcefully pulled from a car and tased by police. This encounter is at the center of a controversy that affected a man who ended up in the hospital. That's right, Cedric Washington, a 31-year-old and a father of 10 children. Mr. Washington normally works as a cook, but has not been able to work since the incident. Now, the use of a taser by police officers is a contentious issue, and the question of whether it should be used for a compliance measure and torture, or merely as a threat, involves several considerations, including legal, ethical, and practical aspects. Now, although tasers can have, in some instances, a positive effect as a de-escalation technique, in situations where verbal commands and other non-violent methods fail, a taser can be an effective tool to quickly gain compliance and control of a situation without resorting to lethal force. But should a taser be used as a compliance device or just for self-defense? Make sure to take a moment to leave a comment below on your take on the use of a police taser. Now, I believe most would say that the use of a taser should be carefully regulated to balance the need for officer safety and effective law enforcement with the rights and safety of the individuals the police come in contact with. While tasers can be a valuable tool for gaining compliance in certain situations, their use should be governed by strict guidelines and oversight to prevent misuse and to ensure they are employed as a last resort when other methods have failed. And the debate over whether police should use tasers for compliance or solely for protection hinges on balancing effective law enforcement with ethical and safety concerns of the general public. Their use should be carefully regulated and primarily reserved for protection rather than compliance or torture. Clear guidelines, comprehensive training, and rigorous oversight are essential to ensure tasers are used appropriately and ethically, balancing effective law enforcement with respect to one's individual rights and the public trust. And again, this is a controversial incident involving law enforcement and has sparked significant debate, because this man was tased by police just for refusing to identify himself as a passenger for a driver having the radio a little too loud in a car. This could best be described as just a consensual contact. And in a consensual contact, even the local PD's training, protocol, and policy told officers that in consensual contacts with the public, although you can ask for ID, you cannot compel ID from an individual. And you cannot and should not take any enforcement action if in the consensual contact, the person you are talking to decides to stand up for his rights and decide not to show his ID.
Chief Elliott said he did not agree with how Officer Faith Kellerman handled the situation. She was found to be in violation of arrest procedures involving consensual contact. It says an officer may approach anyone, is not required to have reasonable suspicion, but may not take any steps through words or conduct to stop a person's movement, and the subject cannot be made in any way to participate. Consequently, Officer Kellerman was reprimanded. But that's not enough. According to Carter and Prunty, they want to see the policies change.
Because community policing is not me stopping you for ID. It shouldn't be. This type of policing is what puts our community in jeopardy.
Because it is an individual's Fourth Amendment constitutionally protected right not to show ID to an officer just to appease his need for his crack. Not to mention, at the end of all this, they end up charging the man with public intoxication when they're the ones that dragged him out of the car to begin with. Can you believe the nerve and the audacity? The man was not drunk in public until you dragged him out of a private vehicle. All right, here's the news clip about this story. Don't forget, comment what you think in the comments below. Thank you again for watching this video by the Junkyard News. Be careful, people, I'm telling you, or we could be discussing and talking about a story about you in the next video. Thanks again.
33-year-old Cedric Washington
Put your weight on me.
normally works as a cook at the G Street Kitchen. Has not been able to work since he went out with friends on March 31st.
You need to turn the music down a little bit. That's
okay, I'm sorry.
disorderly. Have you been drinking or anything?
I'm sorry.
That's when Jonesboro police approached this car for loud music.
You have your driver's license on you?
The driver was a designated driver because the group, according to Washington, had been drinking. Driver's license in hand, it almost appears the encounter is over until officers notice more people in the car.
You mind rolling yours down?
They don't have ID and question why they're being asked for it since they're not driving.
What's your name? What's your name? I've already explained it. If I have to ask you again, you're going to go for obstruction.
So, man, you can ID yourself or you're going to go to jail. Which one?
What happened?
I've already explained it to you twice. So last opportunity before we take you out of the car and put you in cuffs.
My name's Sid.
Hey, stay in the vehicle.
My name's Sid, so what?
What's your
I
last
just told you my name's Sid.
Go ahead and get out.
No weapons are seen, no marijuana, no open container, according to the police report, but there's a definite sense of urgency.
I just told you my name. I said my name is Cedric.
Put it behind your back.
I just told you my name.
I'm not going to tell you again. Roll over. Roll over.
Hey.
Roll over.
I just
Watch
told
out.
hold
Watch
on,
out.
you asked me. Beat your ass.
Get them. We got her.
What these officers don't know is that Washington has a metal rod in his leg. That after suffering a car accident and having his leg rebuilt at the Med in Memphis. Melinda Young, Washington's mother, watching the police body camera footage.
It happened so fast. It went from 0 to 1,000 in 2.5 seconds.
He's faking. Put your legs Indian style so you can stay sitting up.
This man do not bend at all.
He just said he's got a rod in his leg.
You want to see it?
EMTs come to check Washington out.
Oh, when you left one? Okay, so
Yeah, that electricity hit that.
Come back.
you're still on.
Huh?
You're still on.
I told you my birthday.
In fact, an officer admits he entered the wrong information.
Make sure you are who you say you are, because I messed up your date of birth. That was my fault.
But the ambulance soon leaves and Washington is arrested.
Comply now and complain later. If you're on a stop or in a situation when you're dealing with the police and you think it's inappropriate, comply with the officer, and then we have a complaint process.
Washington was charged with resisting arrest, refusing to provide information, threatening with physical force, and public intoxication. After bonding out of jail, he was taken to NEA Baptist, where he was hospitalized for 3 days for traumatic rhabdomyolysis.
Rhabdomyolysis is a serious and life-threatening condition also, because it's not only the damage to the kidney, but it also can affect the heart.
Dr. Mohammed Al-Haji is a nephrologist, a medical professional who treats kidney problems.
And it depends on the length and the voltage. Taser is a form of electricity that will lead to contraction of the muscles and releasing these muscles enzymes and muscle fibers.
That, coupled with Washington's alcohol consumption the night before, likely contributed to elevated CK levels. You can clearly see the taser probes latch on the leg with the metal rod. Chief Elliott said he did not agree with how Officer Faith Kellerman handled the situation. She was found to be in violation of arrest procedures involving consensual contact.
Community policing is not me stopping you for ID. It shouldn't be. This type of policing is what puts our community in jeopardy.
Washington is now trying to get back on his feet, literally.
I'm back on the walker. That's really depressed. Can't play with my kids like I want to.
All over a night on the town.
So why are we being stopped there?
And a chance encounter between a man and officers whose jobs are to protect and serve.
One of these days, these boots are gonna walk all over you.